Greetings to all of you, my dear sisters and brothers and my dear friends. A warm welcome to all of you from your Pastor Yanni. We started yesterday with a new story, a new week, and today we are Tuesday and we are in beliefs. But as I said, I'm going to read you now 2 other chapters of the book of Joshua. And I took the message for translation. I want to say this to you that probably you will hear, oh, it's different. But anyway, it's good to hear also other translations. The Jordan. Joshua was up early and on his way from Shittim with all the people of Israel with him. He arrived at the Jordan and camped before crossing over. After 3 days, leaders went through the camp and gave out orders to the people. When you see the covenant chest of God, your God, carried by the Levitical priest, start moving. Follow it. Make sure you keep a proper distance between you and it, about half a mile. Be sure now to keep your distance, and you'll see clearly the route to take. You've never been on this road before. Then Joshua addressed the people, "Sanctify yourselves. Tomorrow God will work miracle wonders among you." Joshua instructed the priests, "Take up the chest of the covenant and step out before the people." So they took it up and processed before the people. God said to Joshua, "This very day I will begin to make you great in the eyes of all Israel. They'll see for themselves that I'm with you in the same way that I was with Moses. You will command the priests who are carrying the chest of the covenant. When you come to the edge of the Jordan's waters, stand there on the river bank. Then Joshua addressed the people of Israel. Attention, listen to what God, your God, has to say. This is how you'll know that God is alive among you. He will completely dispossess before you the Canaanites, the Hittites, and the Hivites, the Perizzites, Girgashites, the Amorites, and the Jebusites. Look at what's before you, the chest of the covenant. Think of it. The master of the entire earth is crossing the Jordan as you watch. Now take 12 men from the tribe of Israel, 1 man from each tribe, when the soles of the feet of the priest carrying the chest of the God, master of all the earth, touch the Jordan's water, the flow of water will be stopped. The water coming from upstream will pile up in a heap. And that's what happened. The people left their tents to cross the Jordan, led by the priest carrying the chest of the covenant. When the priest got to the Jordan and their feet touched the water at the edge, the Jordan overflows its banks throughout the harvest. The flow of water stopped. It piled up in a heap a long way off at Adam, which is near Zaretan. The river went dry all the way down to the Arabah Sea, the Salt Sea, and the people crossed facing Jericho. And there they stood, those priests carrying the chest of the covenant, stood firmly planted on the dry ground in the middle of the Jordan, while all Israel crossed on dry ground. And finally, the whole nation was across the Jordan, and not one wet foot. When the whole nation was finally across, God spoke to Joshua, "Select 12 men from the people, a man from each tribe, and tell them, from right here, the middle of the Jordan, where the feet of the priests are standing firm, take 12 stones, carry them across with you, and set them down in the place where you camp tonight." Joshua called out the 12 men whom he selected from the people of Israel, 1 man from each tribe. And Joshua directed them, "Cross to the middle of the Jordan and take your place in the front of the chest of God, your God. Each of you heft a stone to your shoulder, a stone for each of the tribes of the people of Israel. So you'll have something later to mark the occasion. When your children ask you, 'What are these stones?' to you, you'll say, 'The flow of the Jordan was stopped in the front of the chest of the covenant of God as it crossed the Jordan, stopped in its tracks.' These stones are a permanent memorial for the people of Israel." The people of Israel did exactly as Joshua commanded. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, a stone for each of the 12 tribes, just as God had instructed Joshua, carried them across with them to the camp, and set them down there. Joshua set up the 12 stones, taking from the middle of the Jordan that had marked the place where the priest who carried the chest of the covenant had stood. They are still there today. The priest carrying the chest continued standing in the middle of the Jordan until everything God had instructed Joshua to tell the people to do what was done, confirming what Moses has instructed Joshua. The people crossed, no one doubted. When the crossing of all the people was complete, they watched as the chest of the covenant and the priest crossed over. The Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh had crossed over in battle formation in front of the people of Israel, obedient to Moses' instructions. All told, about 40,000 armed soldiers crossed over before God to the plains of Jericho, ready for battle. God made Joshua great that day in the sight of all Israel. They were in awe of him, just as they had been in awe of Moses all his life. God told Joshua, "Command the priest carrying the chest of the testimony to come up from the Jordan." Joshua commanded the priest, "Come up out of the Jordan." They did. The priest carrying God's chest of the covenant came up from the middle of the Jordan. As soon as the soles of the feet of the priest's feet touched dry land, the Jordan's waters resumed their flow within the banks, just as before. The people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month. They set up a camp at the Gilgal, the circle, to the east of Jericho. Joshua erected a monument at the Gilgal, using the 12 stones that they had taken from the Jordan. And then he told the people of Israel, "In the days to come, when your children ask their fathers, 'What are these stones doing here?' tell your children this: Israel crossed over this Jordan on dry ground. Yes, God, your God, dried up the Jordan's water for you until you had crossed, just as God, your God, did at the Red Sea, which had dried up before us until we had crossed. This was so that everybody on earth would recognize how strong God's rescuing hand is, so that you would hold God in solemn reverence always." So here, chapters 3 and 4. Here they stood poised on the edge of their destiny. Before them they could see the land God had promised so long ago. the land they'd left Egypt for, the land that had taken so long and cost so many lives to reach. But there was a barrier standing between them and the land, a river at flood stage. The Jordan River starts at the foot of Mount Hermon, nearly 9,000 feet above sea level. It ends about 90 miles later at the Dead Sea, which is about 1,400 feet below sea level. This makes it one of the fastest flowing rivers of its size. It runs fast normally, but at flood stage it poses a serious threat to anyone needing to get to the other side. How would they cross? For the people who lived in Canaan, the Jordan River wasn't an obstacle, it was a shield. They believed that one of their gods was in control of that body of water and had brought the river to such a high level in order to protect them from any invaders. Just like God had done in Egypt, when he used the plagues to topple the pantheon of Egyptians' gods. He would now take on the Canaanite god of the river. When he divided the rushing waters of the Jordan River, he was serving notice both to the inhabitants of the land and to his own chosen people. I am not just the God of the wilderness, not just the God who brings water from a rock or manna in the desert. I am God of everything and everywhere. There is nothing that is beyond my ability to control. Many of the peoples the Israelites would encounter in Canaan believed in regional or limited gods. They believed there was one God in charge of the harvest and other God in charge of the weather. One God helped you having children, another helped you get well if you'd been sick. Yahweh doesn't work like that. He's God of everything. He's the same God of the mountains and the sea, the harvest and your health. Living in that knowledge would be a continual problem for his people. Throughout the Bible, we read that the greatest temptations is not to reject Yahweh altogether, but to simply add him to a list of other gods. To worship him alongside Baal or Asherah or Molech. Let Yahweh handle some things, let the other gods handle other things. In our society, we may not have little statues or funny names for other gods, but we're probably just as guilty as they were of thinking that God is only in charge of some things. Not everything. Maybe we'll trust God with our eternity, but we handle things between now and then. Maybe we'll trust him with our Sundays, but we'll take care of Mondays through Saturday. Let God handle spiritual areas. Spiritual areas, after all, priceless. For everything else, there's MasterCard. Right. God wants to be the Lord of your job and your family, how you spend your money, what you watch on television, and what you listen to on your smartphones. Let me say it a little bit funny. On everything, on every device. This is how it's going to be with Yahweh. He is either God of everything or he is God of nothing. May the Most High God bless you in your mornings and in your evenings. And I forgot in the noon times. But the blessing is there. Consider what you heard today. Is he your God of everything? or do you divide him? And when you come in your evening, my dear ones, think about what you heard in this day. And have fellowship with your God. Talk to him. In the scriptures you heard today of Joshua crossed over the Jordan with the chosen people. You do crossovers too. And is God with you? May God bless you, my dear ones, and the ones close to your heart. And I bless you with the love of God to all of you. This is your Pastor Yeti. Bye.